First order of business is that last night, Saturday night to be exact, Leon Edwards defeated Colby Covington via unanimous decision, 49-46 on all three official scorecards in the main event of 296, UFC 296 on Saturday night. With the victory, Edwards successfully defended his UFC welterweight title for a second time. It was a fairly one-sided fight, to be quite honest with you. Covington unable to push the pace as he normally would, and Edwards picking him apart from the outside with kicks to the right legs and what have you. But that's not what this particular subject is about. We understand that Edwards won. He was a superior fighter. He outclassed Covington. Covington, again, couldn't dictate pace, couldn't use his grappling and his wrestling prowess to really handle Leon Edwards. That's the way it goes, and we understand that. But that's not what made news. What made news was what transpired at Thursday's pre-fight news conference when tensions boiled because Covington said he would take Edwards to the 7th layer of hell. Look at what happened here.
You're so fucking stupid. On Saturday night, I'm going to bring you to a place you never want to be. I'm going to bring you to the 7th layer hell.
Okay.
No, I'm bringing you to 7th layer hell. We'll say what's up to your dad while we're there.
Oh.
Now, obviously, you saw Edwards threw a full water bottle at Covington while both were on the dais, and the two had to be separated. For those of you who may not know, Leon Edwards' father was murdered when Edwards was just 13 years old. So Covington bringing that up, I know a lot of people like, damn, that's pretty low. Edwards himself said he had cried after Thursday's news conference in rage and that it took a lot for him to calm down. He said, quote, "This fight was very emotional for me. This guy used my dad's death as entertainment." Obviously, Edwards had the support of UFC President Dana White, who said he thought Covington, who's 35 years of age now, looked slow and old, and that he wasn't a fan of Covington's talk about Edwards' father either, saying, quote, "One of those things I really don't like is going after family," White said. "It's just a nasty thing to do." Now, listen, Covington was on this show, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, days leading into the fight. His bravado, his trash talk, all of that other stuff, you know that he doesn't hold back at all, and he certainly didn't hold back when he came on the Stephen A. Smith Show just a few days ago. So if you saw him during that interview and you've watched his history at all, then you'll know that his post-fight reaction and his post-fight quotes, you know he wasn't going to hold back then either. After the bout, he said he didn't regret his remarks from the news conference, bringing up Edwards' father's alleged criminal past. He said, "Why would I want to feel bad, or why would I feel bad for a criminal?" Covington said. We won't even get into the fact that he's now 0-3 in title fights for the UFC undisputed title. He lost twice to Kamaru Usman, who Edwards beat, by the way, twice. And then, obviously, he lost to Edwards last night. I don't condone what Covington did either. I think it's pretty low. All right, let me just say that. I don't think you should be doing what he did. I think that's beyond the pale. It's damn near inhumane, to be quite honest with you. It does make you ask the question, where your soul's at. And even afterwards, he tried to intimate that he lost the fight, even though he was thoroughly beaten. It was a one-sided fight. He tried to claim it was like fake news. It was like a fake ruling, you know, talking about because he's a fan of Donald Trump. Meanwhile, while he was saying that in the ring in the post-fight that he should have won the fight, but he lost because he's a fan of Donald Trump, and that may have swayed the judges. Donald Trump was walking out as he was saying that. So you see how Trump rolls. Trump's with people that's going to win. That's his mentality. If you're going to lose, Trump ain't trying to be attached to you. That's really what this came down to, okay? But let me say this, because it's incredibly important to say this. We just got to be honest about it. You know, rules are different when it comes to fighters. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be, but rules are different. I don't condone what Colby Covington said about Leon Edwards' father by any stretch of the imagination. And I can understand why Leon Edwards wanted to sit up there and just destroy him. And it says a lot about Leon Edwards that he still was able to go into the ring, maintain composure, and on top of it all, pick him apart the way that he did. Keep him off balance with those leg kicks. Make sure that he dictated pace. Even though he was taken down a couple of times, he actually took Covington down a couple of times. So we got to look at all of that. But here's what I'm saying to y'all. It's a bigger issue that needs to be discussed. because we have to maintain consistency. We have to maintain consistency. We don't like it. We don't appreciate it. We get it. It's off kilter. I get all of that. The flip side to it, however, is that we live in a society that to this very day reveres my hero, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is the greatest of all time. He called himself that. I call him that. I love this man. God rest his soul. I believe he's in heaven somewhere because of all that he did for our community. He was a phenomenal champion, a phenomenal fighter, a phenomenal humanitarian, particularly in the latter part of his life. I'm personal friends with his daughter, Layla Ali, who I think is one of the most sensational women I've ever seen in sports. She is something special in so many different ways. And I'm not here to sit up there and insult Muhammad Ali by any stretch of the imagination. But we love and revere him. Remember what he said about Joe Frazier? Remember that? The thriller, the killer. I'm going to beat the gorilla in Manila. Remember that? Remember when he called him the white man's champion? Remember when he called him an Uncle Tom? Now, we all said it's pre-fight hype, right? That's how we embraced it. That's how we took it. Why don't you fast forward? Because the Thriller in Manila and all those other fights, that was in the 70s, 71 and on. The 3 fights that he had with Frazier. But if you recall, it was 25 years later, more than 25 years later, in 1996 at the Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia, when Muhammad Ali was going to lit the flame. When Frazier found out about that, do y'all remember what he said? Y'all remember what he said? He said he hoped that Ali would fall into the flames. He said that if he could, he'd have pushed him in it. He hated that man. He hated Muhammad Ali. Because no matter what we absorbed and what we took, it was that damaging to Joe Frazier. And one would say the level of cruelty reached epic proportions, because you have to understand that when we're talking about Joe Frazier, particularly during that era, because the civil rights era was still in vogue, to call a man the Uncle Tom, to sit up there and say he was the white man's champion. You have any idea what it was like for Joe Frazier? Black folks the world over loved Muhammad Ali. Ali Boumaye, when he was fighting George Foreman. Even George Foreman back then was like, I'm black too. But Ali, there was such reverence and such love and affection for him from our community that it alienated others who were black because folks took sides. Now, what the hell does that have to do with Colby Covington saying what he said about Leon Edwards, which none of us condone. None of us should condone. And I'll get that. And I'm saying that loud and clear. Please don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, when it comes to fighters, when you have a license to assault or to be assaulted, when you could literally get away with killing somebody inside the ring or inside the octagon, is off kilter, is wrong, is inhumane and disrespectful, and other things that you could come up with to describe such disgusting rhetoric coming out of the mouth of somebody else. When it comes to fights, I'm never shocked. If you think anything could give you the slightest edge, again, not condoning it, but it shouldn't surprise you when it happens. A guy like Colby Covington, what he said was disgusting. It was wrong. As a human being, he should be ashamed of himself. As a fighter, it's hard to tell him to care before you get into that ring. Because whatever you think gives you an edge is what, in all likelihood, you're going to utilize. Take, for example, what Leon Edwards said. He was in such a rage. He said he spent the night crying. That press conference was on Thursday. The fight was on Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, what if that press conference was Friday night instead of Thursday night? What if Leon Edwards didn't have that full 24 hours to get composed? Then he would have stepped into the octagon. He would have been hell-bent on knocking the living hell out of Colby Covington. He would have went after him in a feverish manner with nothing but volatile intentions on his mind, as opposed to being composed, seasoned, poised like a champion should be. And it would have played into Colby Covington's hands, and Colby Covington would have took him out. Possibly. I didn't think that was going to happen because Leon Edwards, look at him, he's big. He beat Usman, who beat Covington twice and what have you. I didn't think that was going to happen because Covington's 35 years of age. And like Dana White said, looked a bit slow. But what I'm saying is you're looking for any edge that you can get. And when it comes to fighting, it's the mental edge. Again, not excusing it. Just rationalizing the intent behind it. When you're fighters, this is what happens. I'll remind y'all that Colby Covington was about to be out of the UFC. If I remember correctly from the stories that I read during my research on him, he was considered incredibly boring. And it wasn't until he became a heel that he went to Brazil for a fight and insulted the Brazilian folks there. And you saw the uproar that he created. That's when everybody started gravitating to him. That's what ultimately led to him getting a fight. Not once, but twice against Usman. That's what ultimately, of course, winning too did that as well. But that's what ultimately led to him getting in the octagon against Masvidal, who looked exhausted after a couple of rounds fighting Covington. And then ultimately, that's what got him this third title shot against Edwards. These are the kind of things that happen. So again, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's right. Please don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying to you is that throughout history, which is why I use Muhammad Ali. No, Tyson didn't have to talk about other people. All Tyson had to do was sit up there and talk about how he wanted to push your nose into your brain and walk into the ring with the doom, with a black cut-off robe over his head, or towel rather. Walking into the ring, black trunks, black socks, black towel or white towel, just coming in there, clearly with bad intentions. No intent whatsoever for the fight to go the distance. Trying to finish you. That's what Tyson did. So he didn't have to do all of that talking. But some fighters did. Pretty boy Floyd. He made money. He was unbelievable as a lightweight. He was something special, Floyd Money Mayweather. But when he became Money Mayweather and he started chirping and talking trash and becoming a pariah in a lot of people's eyes, that's how he made $1 billion. That's how he made $1 billion. That's not the only way to make your money. I mean, we see good guys in sports all the time, the Peyton Mannings, the Tom Bradys of the world, and others. You make your money being good guys. But some people make their money being bad guys. The in-between, the middle of the road in the world of professional sports pertaining to the actual athletes themselves usually doesn't work. You got to be extremely likable or extremely hated. That's usually what it takes. Usually, not always, but usually. Usually. And that's what we have to take into consideration. Again, you're talking to the ultimate fan of Muhammad Ali and the ultimate fan of his family, and especially his daughter Layla, who is a friend. I love the ground that woman walks on. And I would never utter an insulting word about Muhammad Ali. I want to be clear, but what I'm saying is the quotes that he said, particularly the times in which he said those things to Joe Frazier and about Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier never got over to his dying breath. He hated this man because of the labels and the attachment and the way it galvanized our very own community to look at him as second fiddle compared to Muhammad Ali. It wasn't even that Ali was loved more or Frazier was loved less. It's that Ali was so revered and so loved that painting Joe Frazier in that manner, the white man's champion, the Uncle Tom, during the civil rights era, that was a very, very difficult thing for Joe Frazier to live with in his own community. which explained why you could go into George Frazier's gym on North Broad Street in Philadelphia all of those years in his boxing gym. And the one photo that was conspicuous was him standing over Ali after he had dropped Ali in the 15th round of their first fight. The pain never left him. We revered Ali and loved Ali and didn't care about the damage that was done to Joe Frazier. What we don't pay enough attention to is the stage that stuff set over the years, for years and years and years to come. It may not be that example people were definitively looking at, but it was a very conspicuous example folks could lean on. Why do you think you see athletes talking trash all the time when the cameras are rolling? Some athletes, that is. Not most, not all, but some. Particularly in sports like the UFC and boxing. Why do you think you see that? Because they think it sells. And by it selling, you're going to be in a position, all right, now I got to go in there and perform. Floyd Money Mayweather, when he moved up to welterweight and he repeatedly had those hand injuries, wasn't knocking people out all the time. Yeah, he put down Ricky Hatton. Yeah, he did that. Pacquiao was a decision. Cotto was a decision. Sugar Shane was a decision. Zab Judah, a decision. Well, actually, the disqualification, all of that stuff was going on. But the list goes on and on. You just got to turn around. What happened? The ability to be able to market yourself is why you may say the things that you say. Colby Covington was a quiet dude who was about to get pushed out of the sport because he was too damn boring. And then he started talking a lot of shit. And all of a sudden, he became an attraction. Again, he went too far. As Dana White says, you don't bring up family. You don't do that. Fair enough. Totally true. But let's just be honest. There's a method to the madness. I bet you for Covington, it was about that as much as it was about anything else. Not to say it wasn't about anything else, but I bet you that had a lot to do with it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.